So yeah, secondary school but all the way through, the one thing that how I managed to communicate was through movement. It was through story. It was through pantomime. It was also through plasticine, and I really loved plasticine, and I would always have a piece of plasticine with me, shaping it into...
Smiling because that was one of the things that I really took from doing that creative course with you was the power of plasticine. It's a feature in my creative kit. It's just always there. I'm forever buying more plasticine because I use it with clients all the time. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, because you're physically feeling and touching and moving and forming, and it's sufficient distraction for conscious mind, so that the person is less likely to go into a state of rumination, because they're forming this shape, whether it's a little fish or a bird or a piece of fruit or whatever it is, And
I remember doing a little bit of work with one client once who was he was quite badly attention deficit, and he used to struggle in meetings, and meetings were a big part of his job, and he used to struggle. I can't concentrate.
No.
And I said to him, have you tried a little bit of plasticine? And he said, no. Well, what do you mean? I said, just take a little bit of plasticine with you and just have it in your hand and just play with it under the table. And just do that, because people were forever moaning at him for doodling and not being present in the room. And he was trying to say, well, I am present. If I don't doodle, I won't be present.
No,
I may not look
right.
like I'm paying attention to you, but I'm listening to everything. It's just I have to occupy.
Yeah.
And he tried the plasticine thing and changed him completely. He's eye contact with people because his hands are busy all the time. Whereas before he'd have look at the paper to look at what he was doing. All of a sudden he doesn't have to have that eye contact with the paper, and he can busy his hands. And it's
That's
just
right.
the simplest thing that works so well.
Yeah. And I read a book recently by Moshe Bar called Mind Wandering.
Okay.
And he talks about something called the default mode network, which is when we go daydreaming, and how essential that is. And it's a really important part of the way the brain functions. So 95% of what we process on a daily basis, 24/7, is unconscious, and by definition, we cannot be conscious of it. Yeah. Now that's a very different definition from Freud's definition of the unconscious or Jung's definition of the unconscious. And a man called Timothy Wilson, who wrote a fantastic book called Strangers to Ourselves, talks about it as the adaptive unconscious, and
The adaptive
unconscious, yeah, which means that most of the time it's taking most of the decisions, and it gets on with things. But then there are times where we need to think about something, and so a feeling emerges through the reticular activating system of the brain. It just sort of comes up through, and we become aware of it. We might not, know what that feeling is, but we become aware of a feeling. And that's a really critical moment. And how we think and the responses we can make then mean that we can make some adaptations to the unconscious, which then go back down. And I have this metaphor. It's interesting you've got a lava lamp up there, because I've got this metaphor of a lava lamp, and I talk about it with students that it's think of it as a lava lamp, because it has a power source coming from outside. So we're always connected to the context. We're always plugged in, so to speak, and that then generates heat, and the unconscious informs our behavior. But at times the lava rises to the top of the lava lamp, where it's a little bit cooler, and that's where we do the thinking. Okay? So a thought is a response to the rising feelings. And basically, the rising feelings are saying, well, what do we do now? Do we carry on doing what we've always done? Do you want to make any adaptations to it? And how we respond to that it then sort of cools and goes back down into the unconscious, and you know, becomes part of our ongoing experience.
I was thinking kind of almost like a reintegration of that part back into
That's
the
it.
unconscious again when it kind of
That's
sinks
it.
down into the light.
That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And a wonderful man called Henning Beck, in his book, another book that as soon as I saw the title, I thought I've got to have that, because it's called Scatterbrain.
Oh, I'm all over it already.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll write that one down before we
Yeah,
leave later on.
it's fantastic. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, I've got to have that book, because that's what people told me I was all the time. They just told me you're a scatterbrain. You know, and anyone listening to this conversation has already got a sense of me, because I just go from one thing to another. And once I start talking, it's very difficult to stop. And I say that to students sometimes, and at the end of the day, they go away and they say, "Oh, my head is just exploding." Gone in so many different directions, so fast. But
I think that's probably why I enjoyed learning from you so much, because my brain works in that way as well, and I was able to kind of take that in very, very well.